I'm right back here, and I want to get right into it, so I'll carry right over. Okay, getting back to what I was saying is I was trying to condense everything, get everything about Steve Armage, what he said. The only way, he said, Spyder, your CFL rule is not adopted. And I sent, by the way, I got emails I sent out to all, okay, I got them out to the owners, by the way. The BC Lions were really interested in my role. One of the executives was really blown away by it. But the problem is the ego on the CFL Rules Committee by the coaches, okay, and GMs, mostly made up coaches, and the commissioner and the CFL ego is unbelievable. And it's, I mean, it's pompous at its finest. It's pompousness at its finest. It's pompous. It's jealousy. Because, like my son, no, okay, oh gosh, I wanted to put my phone here. I guess I didn't, because I wanted to read something my son said. Okay, here's my amazing son. Okay, that's a picture of him when he was with the Cole Harbour Wings, when they battled AAA at the Irvin Challenge Cup, when we played Nova Scotia, and we were the host team. Cole Harbour Wings, Red Wings, and so anyway, he had a hat trick, and Cam Russell, who played in the NHL Chicago Blackhawks, okay, he was the star of the game. He had a hat trick. There's the 3 pucks he scored, and Dixon was there, who played with Sidney Crosby on Team Canada, major junior team, and Bottomley. And my son, they won 5-3, and he had a hat trick. There's the shot of him. And then the final game against St. John's, Newfoundland, and my son was kneed by a goon from New Brunswick. He scored the tying and winning goal, and almost had a hat trick too, and there he was MVP as well. So of that game, and he had the most goals, and he was first year bat in AAA and in the Urban Challenge Cup. So I'm very proud of my son, like every other father should be, and I'm sure you are. So I wanted to say what my son said. My son said, and I wish I had my phone. I guess I can't crawl around and get it, but I can try to remember what he said. He said basically that there's no way that the CFL would ever allow themselves to be outdone and outsmarted by a fan. So when Brosey says, oh, well, you know, he said it numerous times, it's so important we listen to the fans. Well, guess what? Because I'm a CFL fan and a loyal fan, my rule doesn't count, even though it's far superior. Far superior, like my son said, it's not even debatable. It's not even debatable. I worked, like my son said, countless hours on this, my CFL Red Zone rule. Countless hours. What did they just say? Oh, Hockney will say, oh, maybe we should change the hash marks. Or Glenn Souther said, maybe 2 quarterbacks should play. Because it's Glenn Souther, they changed, which is a minor tweak, and that's gimmicky too. They're all gimmicky. And it took a lot of thought to say, oh, maybe we should change the hash marks. How about me, almost 5 years to finally finish my final finished product, my CFL Red Zone goal. And countless hours I worked on it by listening and learning, and did a 3.5 year survey on probably the most important question is why are there so many Canadians only watching the NFL 4-down football, only watching NFL 4-down football, and not watching their own brand of CFL 3-down football in their own country. What a question! And all the complaints that I got about, like I was saying earlier, about too much kicking in the CFL, too many 2-and-outs, okay, which would be really, by the way, two down football stops in the red zone is worse than 2-and-outs between the red zone, because it's magnified like 10,000%, which my CFL Red Zone rule will completely eliminate. But they talked about too many 2-and-outs. They don't even exist in the NFL, by the way. Too many CFL games, boring games for too much kicking, and too many field goals for too many points, and too many field goals in the red zone, which I said is even more distasteful. Like I said, it's magnifying. It's just, you know, come on, you play 2-down football, get down in the red zone, and you stop them, unless you're on the 1-yard line, you don't go for it 3rd down, and so from the 2, the 5, right up 20 you kick another. If you stop in 3rd down, you kick an easy chip shot field goal, okay? Like, no wonder there's so many boos. They don't want to see that, and it's basically a 2-down game of football, and that's what they were saying. In my survey, they were saying that, easy chip shot field goals are a real, like, killer. And 2-down football stops in the red zone, real killer, turnoff of our CFL 3-down game of football. The 2 biggest, by the way, turnoffs and killers, which my CFL Red Zone will completely eliminate it. Now, imagine a hash mark rule. How can you come up to that? Like, where's your feature and benefit that you can come up to that powerful super feature and benefit? They can't do anything like that, okay? And guaranteeing 18% or more touchdowns scored in the red zone, come on. Or 16% at the current 51% average percentage of touchdown, which is the lowest ever, probably. One of the lowest ever. But anyway, and they were saying, and higher scoring games with too many field goals, right, for points, and too many, of course, distasteful, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals for too many field goals in the red zone. It's a big killer, big killer. And the Canadian ratio was also a huge complaint that I'm going to get into in a minute, okay? But there's no comparison, like my son said. It's not even debatable. And he said they didn't want to be outdone. They wouldn't allow it to be outdone. And because, like Steve Armitage said, because of ego. And because they didn't come up with it themselves. It's not their baby, because it's not theirs. If it was their baby, okay, imagine if Glenn Souther would have come up with this. It would be adopted. Randy Brose would be adopted in the second. Anybody in the CFL Rules Committee, the Innovation Rules Committee, okay, be adopted in the second. Because it's me, like Steve Armitage is a fan, and they don't want to be outdone, so they take all their little minor tweak, 9 of them, that don't amount, they're basically they're gimmicky, and like and Mark Trustman said, they're tweets, they're little minor alterations, he called them. Like, what are they going to do? You know, they're not going to sell. No one's talking about. No one's excited about that. Oh, the people and the coaches on the rules committees are talking about it, and Randy Brose, they're talking of the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, they could have had the greatest thing since sliced bread. They could have had the biggest CFL rule ever, the most exciting, most dramatic, okay, most entertaining, most innovative. Okay, and the biggest ever CFL rule, ever in the history of the CFL, and probably all professional football, they would have adopted my CFL red zone rule. But no, they have to take all their little minor tweaks, suggestions, because then they can claim victory. Oh, it's theirs. Look what we did. Okay, isn't that something to be that pompous and that have got kind of ego, huge ego, that they would slam. They didn't even look at this, and they suppressed it. And like my son says, they don't want it to get out. They don't want my CFL Red Zone rule to get out. Like two that I introduced it to at the Grey Cup game in Calgary, the last Grey Cup game in Calgary. Okay, the 108th Grey Cup. 2 younger Edmonton Eskimo. By the way, thank God the Elks are putting the double E, what I suggested to the chairman, Mr. Murray. Thank God you're doing it. Smart move, marketing-wise. But by the way, those 2 younger generation Eskimo fans that were so sold my CFL Red Zone room, I gave them brochures. Here, you know what they said? You know what they said? Spyder, how are you going to get it out there? How are you going to get it out there? I gave them these brochures. I'll have these at Touchdown Atlantic, by the way. I may have a chance to talk about Touchdown on Wolfle, okay? And my banner, and my hats, okay? Anyway, so, and by the way, my presentation that was supposed to be presented to the CFL Innovation Rules Committee is up on my Facebook page, Spyder CFL Red Zone Facebook page. It's all there. You can read it, okay? But anyway, so, I mean, so they did a number deliberately on me because they don't want it to be exposed. They don't want it to be known. They want to suppress it. Because you know why? Because the mass market is which they need. The younger generation, all the NFL only fan, that's the mass market. And by the way, they would all, just like the 500 I surveyed, be all blown away by it and all wanted to make part of a CFL 3-down game because it's a game changer. It's a winner. That's why. And what it will do feature-wise and benefit-wise, which, by the way, there's 10 super features and benefits on my Facebook page and in my presentation. You want to read them. They're powerful. And they don't have one. They don't really have one super feature benefit, any of their 9 rules combined, which my CFL Red Zone rule will blow all their 9 combined out of the water. It's not even debatable, like I said. It's not even a contest, not even close. So this is our CFL, and this is how political they are, and what they've done to me, my CFL Red Zone rule. But I'm going to fight back because I got to find a way to get my CFL Red Zone rule out there. And everything I just said to you, I sent out to the commissioner, calling them out, and the CFL Innovation Rules Committee. I got it directly to a few that were on it directly. I sent it, tried to get it out to all the owners, okay? But they're controlled by basically the Innovation Rules Committee and the CFL Rules and Brose. They allow them to run the show, right? Just like they allow the Canadian Players and the Canadian Players Association to run the show, which I'm about to talk about right now, okay? But, okay, Anyway, just before I conclude on my CFL Red Zone rule, okay, I'm gonna keep pushing it. I'm gonna keep pushing it, and to think that that's what they did to my CFL Red Zone rule deliberately. And by the way, Farhan Laji, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Farhan Laji, okay, Laji. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, Farhan, I'm sorry. Okay, I do like your name though; it's cool. I sent my presentation that's on my Spyder CFL Red Zone rule, okay, Facebook page that Randy Ambrosi has, and he was supposed to present it to the Innovation Rules Committee, the new CFL Innovation Rules Committee. By the way, Farhan Laji, I think that's how you pronounce it. I sent him my presentation, sent him the summary, the recap, everything. I told him about Mr. Van Stone and about Steve Armitage endorsing my CFL Red Zone, giving a stamp of approval. And guess what? He has too. He's sold on it big time. And he said if it came to a vote, that he would vote for it. So there's 3 big names. I sent it out to Glenn Souther. I'm very disappointed in you. I hope you watch this, Glenn Souther, because you know what? I'd have to maybe put you in that category. There's too much ego. I'm sorry with you. I like you, but there's too much ego. You didn't even recognize, even acknowledge. I sent this out to you. You didn't even recognize my CFL Red Zone rule. You never said a word about it. Okay, not a word. Okay, and I called you out on it, by the way. And I'm a straight shooter. Okay, I call a spade, and I'm sorry. That's pompous. That's egotistical. Just like the CFL Innovation Rules Committee and the CFL Rules Committee members and Randy Ambrosi. And it's exactly what Steve Armitage says. He said it's almost impossible. The only way your CFL Red Zone rule, he said, because of the magnitude of it and what it can do, not only from the entertainment value side, but from the business side as well, doesn't get adopted, is because of ego and because they didn't come up with it themselves. And shame on you, okay? And that's why you have all these 9 little tweaks that will do nothing. And by the way, like I said, we never have to ever worry about going to 4-down football if my CFL Red Zone rule was adopted. Because of what it will do, the spotlight it would put on our 3rd down, the excitement it would make our 3rd down, not only from the entertainment value side, but the business side as well, like I keep stressing that, because the dividends it will pay for the CFL, the owners, their partners, and that's Genius Sports Now and the CFL players would be so rewarding. It'd be unbelievable, and it would pay huge dividends and generate a lot of revenue for the CFL, and also it would increase attendance instantly and season ticket sales, and CFL stadiums they'd be full. The excitement in the red zone, the drama with my CFL Red Zone would be phenomenal. It would make CFL stadiums soar and roar throughout all the CFL with my Spyder CFL Red Zone rule. And that's exactly what it would do if it was wisely adopted by the CFL. And by the way, it's earned, like Mr. Van Stone, the leader post said, it said the CFL couldn't run a bigger script. He says there's so much ammo to prove why my CFL Red Zone rule after the 2021 season should be made CFL. My Spyder CFL Red Zone rule should be made part of a CFL 3-down game. He said it's just overwhelming, and it deserves it, and it's justifiable, by the way, that is there to prove it. So what do? No, they just push it aside, ignore it because of jealousy, because of ego, and they come up with these minor little tweaks, and their little hash mark, think that it's going to be the greatest thing from sliced bread. It's going to be the greatest rule ever. Going to make CFL football the biggest, most exciting brand of football in the world. Way bigger than the NFL with their new hash mark rule. Well, I'm sorry, it's not. And Mark Trestman knows it's not. And Mark Cohen knows it's not. And all the star quarterbacks before that never had their hash marks moved, that had all kinds of big plays, all kinds of scoring, big touchdowns, okay, with the hash marks where they were, they're not sold either, and it's not going to. It's and John Huffenagel, you're a hypocrite because you wanted to go to 4 downs. By the way, with my CFL Red Zone rule, made part of a CFL 3-down game, you never have to go to 4 downs. And it'll blow 4-down football out of the water. And it'll blow your 9 little tweak, little embarrassing little rule changes in your hash mark, embarrassing little hash mark change out of the water, by the way. Okay, that's it. I'm hyped up. You're damn right I am. Let's get to the strike, okay, that's going on right now. Shame on you, okay, shame on you, players. And you're saying that the CFL's lying and the owners are lying? No, you're lying, okay? I'll tell you why you're lying, Okay, here's why you're lying. You don't talk about, and the CFL, shame on you too, in a way. You should, because you're cowards. You go in with a proposal and you say, okay, here's our proposal. We want to eliminate the Canadian ratio. Yeah, it should have been gone a long time ago. How can you have a league where there's 25 plus top Canadian players going to the NFL? They're in the NFL right now, playing in the NFL, and there's that many try to go every year, and there's 3 or 4 or 5 being signed every year or more. Okay, and every year in tryouts, and they don't even want to. Hey, they're not even available for the Canadian draft. Even the quarterback, Ford, he was down there. He played his college football in Canada. He was trying to make the NFL. It's unbelievable. And here's the problem. How does that help the CFL? Well, it doesn't. So here the CFL, I thought Al Millen being like an American president with the American players, they would want the Canadian ratio gone too, or certainly reduced by half, and the roster Canadians guaranteed ratio reduced by half too. That's what the CFL wanted to get rid of the starting ratio of 7 players. No wonder. No other professional sports league has that. MLS soccer teams have a 3 Canadian roster. They're not forced to play them. But here's the problem: the Canadian players and the Canadian Players Association, they're dictating to the coaches in the CFL and the GMs, okay, and handcuffing them, and basically saying, no, you have to start 7 of us, even though we're not good enough, okay, because of our passport, right? Canadian passport, you have to start us, because we run this league. We run the CFL with our Canadian ratio, and that's the problem. And that's why the CFL owners and the commissioner are cowards. You go in a proposal to get rid of it, and you cave. What happens? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. One naturalized American player, if they're on one team for 3 years, that's one play. So there's 6 Canadian starters. It's no different, right? It's no different. It's basically exactly the same. Nothing's changed. The roster hasn't been reduced. You know, they're still controlling the CFL. The Canadian players. You're a hypocrite, you Canadian players. You want to go down the NFL, but you want to control the CFL, and shove your Canadian ratio down fans' faces. And there's majority of the younger generation, the NFL only fans that the CFL desperately need, they don't watch CFL football for that reason. And for what's going on in the red zone. Who wants to watch what's going on in the red zone with repetitive 2-down football stops? 51% of an average percentage of touchdown score in the red zone amongst 9 CFL teams in 2021. Like Mr. Vanstone said, they couldn't wrote a better script for your CFL red zone rule, Spyder. And it's true. Who wants to watch that? Who wants to watch 2 and outs? Which mine, by the way, also CFL red zone will reduce as well. Between the 20 yards at lines, eliminate completely 2-down, 2nd-down stops that are magnified in the red zone, completely gone, and easy chip shot field goals, completely gone, that are a huge killer for a CFL 3-down game. But between the 20-yard lines, there'd be way more bigger plays. That's why you don't have to change the hash marks. It's not going to give you any more bigger plays anyway. It's going to give you more shorter little plays to the sidelines down, even more under 10 yards. It'll be even worse. But with my CFL red zone rule, they'd be going downfield vertically on both sides, or center of the field, all over the field down, because they want to get in the red zone to play CFL 3-down football with my CFL red zone rule, enforcement rule, to play exciting 3-down football if the 3rd down is needed to score a touchdown, knowing that they're stopped maintaining possession of the ball, not forced outside the red zone on 3rd down to get the Spyder CFL red zone will kick, or be the CFL red zone kick, because the Spyder will be gone. See, what a rule, what a rule, what a rule. Like, you couldn't find a better rule. And I worked countless hours, and all the legitimate complaints that was going, and I was really hyped up on it, and maybe repeating them somewhat, but because they were repeating them, it was repetitive, it was consistent. They address all of them, and they basically eliminate all their complaints of our CFL 3-down game of football. That's how powerful my CFL red zone rule is. But these hypocrite Canadian players, they're hypocrites, and they're lying to the fans, and they want fans to go out in the picket lines with them. I wouldn't go near them. They're lying, and it's all about money with them. It's all about money. They don't care about the CFL. They don't care about 3-down football. Okay, they go to 4-down football. They get more money. They don't care about a game. They don't care about the Grey Cup. They just care about money. And by the way, they'll be going down to the XFL too. They're 1-year contracts. They won't even change that. They won't change the Canadian ratio. No, the Canadian players, because they want to control the CFL. They want to be starters even though they're not good enough. If they're embarrassment on the field, they don't care, the Canadian linemen, because they can get $250,000 because they know they got to start them to fill the Canadian ratio, which is huge. Half the roster, 7 starters. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. That's why the CFL is in trouble. They're not allowed to play their best players, start to play them. And the imbalance, the American players, why aren't you standing up? There's an imbalance in salaries. You're getting screwed because of the Canadian ratio. The fans are getting screwed because they're not allowed to see the best players, or the best players being recruited, or the best players start and play in the CFL. And by the way, the mass market, which is the NFL, OnlyFans, and there's troves of them. And the younger generation sports fans that watch the CFL, period, they watch the NFL, they only want to watch the best players in any league play. Anyway, any league. Can you imagine if the Leafs didn't have any Canadian players? You don't think people would go to the games? Or the Toronto Blue Jays? Or the Toronto FC soccer team? You got to be kidding me. They want to see the best players. And guess what? Football fans, listen to me. Football fans want to see the best players. And by when it comes to rule change, even Mark Trestman said something like this too, indirectly. You got to have a rule that's the most needed rule. And it's justifiable. The most needed rule. My rule is justifiable, like Mr. Vance, the leader post said. They couldn't write a better script. There's so much ample to prove my CFL red zone rule should be made part of our CFL 3-down game. So the strike, enough for the players, and no offense should be for the players. And by the way, anybody that wants a Canadian ratio, these old school Canadian ratio CFL fans, no wonder there's so many empty seats then in the CFL, because that's the mass market, younger generation sports, the NFL fans. They don't want a Canadian ratio. They want to see the best players, and they want my Spyder CFL red zone rule. And if everyone knew about my Spyder CFL red zone rule, that the CFL is suppressing deliberately and silencing deliberately, they'd be all sold on it. Like my son said, that's how they have to find out about it, and that's how the CFL is backed in the corner. And then they have to address it, and they have to review it and evaluate it, and fairly look over all the features and benefits. Look, check out my presentations on my Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule Facebook page. My full presentation. It's powerful. It's powerful. I go all over the business side of it, the rule side of it, Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule in a nutshell. There's also an optional provision part, but I go over all the rules that CFL Red Zone Rule kit, which is a big part of my CFL Red Zone Rule. I go over all the 10 key super features and benefits. I show a picture of Steve Armich and I with my Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule hats. I talk about when Bo Levi Mitchell. So I gave him a brochure. In the 108th grade cup in Calgary, he zoomed right in an 18% guarantee. He was sold on it. So Bo Levi Mitchell, don't let him silence you. You're blown away by that 18% guarantee. My Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule, okay, enforcement rule. And by the way, there's not one CFL quarterback or one offensive player, or even defensively, because of the invigorating plot it would create in the red zone. The drama and excitement in the red zone, my Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule. With the diagram, with my Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule diagram, with the CFL Red Zone Rule diagram on the field with the CFL Red Zone Rule logo, and on the 35 with the CFL Red Zone Rule kit. They could put that on there too. And they got to jazz it up. Look how and the TSN could jazz it up, by the way, with sponsorship tag sales and the money they could draw in. And by the way, one other thing about the business side, with my CFL Red Zone Rule, with betting coming in, could be the most popular and the biggest bet and the biggest money generating bet. You know why? Because of the, like I said, the revigorating plot, the unpredictability element to it that I talk about in my presentation in the red zone, okay? Because, okay, is the defense going to stop and prevent a touchdown being scored? The third down's needed, playing with my exciting CFL red zone rule, enforcement rule. Okay, if they do, they prevent a touchdown. Or they're going to push them outside in third down and prevent the CFL red zone rule kick from the 35 with a chance to get 3 points, which would be huge. So you could bet on all that, okay, in the red zone. So the betting could be 3 different scenarios, betting scenarios in the red zone, my Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule, and CFL Red Zone Rule kick too, especially if they add the 7. yards to it at 42, because it actually would add more drama and excitement, because that would be a pretty challenging kick. But now they're lining the hash marks more centered and more easy to get field goal kick. That's another reason I don't like it. I don't look. They're all minor little tweaks. They're Mickey Mouse. They're embarrassing alterations, like Mark Trestman said, little alterations. But anyway, you know what? I'm hyped up and I'm psyched up, and I am totally against the strike. And what the CFL has to do is stop playing politics, stop being jealous of my rule because you didn't come up with it, because it's not your baby. Because, you know, can you imagine the biggest rule? I mean, I worked so many countless hours in this for 5 years that the biggest rule ever that the CFL could ever adopt, my Spyder Super Red Zone rule, because of jealousy and being pompous and huge ego, they push it aside because it's not theirs, it's not their baby, and they come up with all their little minor little tweak suggestions, and they try to look like heroes. Well, you know what they look like? You know, they look like idiots. Seriously, they look like a bunch of clowns. And then wanting to vote for 4 downs, which, by the way, adopt my CFL Red Zone rule, you never have to worry about going to 4 downs. And you know what? It will be make our 3 down, our third down, such a powerful down in the red zone. It would be phenomenal. And it'll be a blockbuster. And it'll put a spotlight on a 3rd down and put a real signature on a 3-down game of football and on a 3rd down. And make it a bigger down in the red zone and a more popular, more exciting down and full of drama, and a more powerful down and a more entertaining down that's full of excitement and drama in the red zone, more than the NFL 4 down, because NFL 4 downs is too many downs in the red zone, and 3 downs is the ideal, and like 2 down repetitive football stuff in the red zone is a no-no, and it's too fewer downs, but 3 downs is the ideal amount of downs in the red zone to score touchdowns, with my CFL Red Zone rule will deliver. So Spyder's got to sign out. My CFL Red Zone rule is needed in the CFL with the best players.